Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what's going on? Sal here, back again. Today we're going to be looking at this Wednesday slate, January 30th in the NBA for Daily Fantasy Sports. Yesterday, I thought it was Monday when it was Tuesday, yada yada. I got some people telling me that. Today's Wednesday, it's the 30th. I know I got that right. Double checked it just to make sure. If you're new here, again, my name is Sal Vetri. Welcome to the channel. We break down Daily Fantasy Sports. Started with the NFL. Now we're into NBA. Honestly, NBA is demanding, right? You got to stay on top of it. So I've been putting these videos out daily. I'm going to try to continue to do that, probably taking weekends off and days off here and there, especially when the bigger slates come out. It's just a lot to digest back-to-back days and produce content for. So I'm going to be doing it as often as I can. We've been doing it for like a week straight plus right now, and we've been growing this audience tremendously. So I'd love for you to join. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. If this video at any point brings you value, or if any of the other videos on my channel do bring you value. We're over 2,000 subscribers. By the end of this week, my goal is to be over 2,500 subscribers, and we have the weekend coming. I'm going to try and be getting out a daily fantasy Super Bowl breakdown video for Thursday for the showdown slate. Have a showdown strategy video in there for you guys, all things like that. So I appreciate it. Let's jump into this slate. There's a lot of free things down below. You'll see little banners coming up with the PDF, the Facebook group, checking out Draft Dashboard for 30 days for a buck, all that stuff. So I appreciate it that you're here. Have your attention now. Let's get into this. All right. So we're on Draftkings. We're going to get into the spreadsheets, do what we do. Just quickly looking at, if we want to just glance over the high-priced guys, a lot of them are actually in compared to what we've been seeing with LeBron being out and Davis being out. We see Davis out here. Irving's actually doubtful now that we get some news there, and that's what we're going to jump over into. But, you can see only 3 guys in that 5-figure range, which on an 8-game slate seems a little bit low. So it seems like we might be able to actually fit in a couple of mid-price, maybe a little mid to higher tier guys and build a lineup from there. I kind of have my lineup constructions in my mind. But at this point, and again, it is early today. I got up at 6 to do this research. It's 7:38ish right now that I'm filming this. So it's early in the morning. News is going to break inevitably. But this is just to get you focused on what you need to know and how you should handle that when the news does break. And if no news breaks, you'll be really set to go. So let's jump over into it. And we'll start with our injuries. This is just a lineup template, same thing as DraftKings, just I don't have to go into DraftKings to do it. And this is not for today. These players are obviously Seth Curry, that's from a while ago. So injuries for today, the 30th. So January 30th, the injuries today. There's really not a ton of big ones, I would say, as of now. And if we want to talk about injuries, yesterday before lock, if you follow me on Twitter, that's where I'm the most active. You can get a lot of stuff. I retweet usage stats and things when injuries come up, things that I can't be doing live for you guys right now until I get a new laptop. So, follow me on Twitter, and that 20 minutes before I was taking an exam, finishing it up, sprinted out of there, taking like a written test thing and taking it, sprinted out of there. Saw the news about Noel, and we saw Peyton late. Peyton didn't really matter too much, but again, Tim Frazier I think was in the winning lineup, the backup there, and then Noel started for Steven Adams. He did fine. He 10x value, didn't do great in the first quarter, but then he 10x value. I got him in a decent amount of my lineups, but if I had a little more time, and the NBA's injury reporting is just terrible, that's why you have to stay up to date on this. It comes down to how you handle injuries, right? The winning lineup last night had Noel and had Frazier in it, I believe, in the big tournament for 100 grand. If you're not paying attention a half hour, an hour before lock, you're never going to win. Not only will you not win the tournament, you're never going to place because Noel was 37% owned. I don't know what Frazier's ownership was, but it was probably double digits ownership as well. So when those guys are that owned, they're going to be cashing a lot, especially if it's so easy for them to 10x value, let the opponent get other people in their lineup. So you got to pay attention to injuries all day long. So what you're going to see here is probably going to change, but this is at your beginning of the day, a good slate for you to start on in a picture. Okay, what can possibly break now? Obviously, some things like random rest is going to be out there, and we'll talk about that. So Tyler Johnson's been ruled out. So we've been giving some early news like we were yesterday, which is nice. We know that Tyler Johnson's out. We know that Tyreek Evans is out. We know that Jeff Teague is out. We also know that Jamal Murray is also still out. So these are all nice things to get early. Tyreek Evans, him being out, it's going to affect Sumner, who's going to get back into the lineup. And then Darren Collison should see some more usage. Jeff Teague out. He's been out for a while. This seems to be a lingering injury. And it's kind of this Jeff Teague and the guards for the Timberwolves game that we've been playing for the past week and a half to 2 weeks. It's now Derrick Rose questionable ankle. If he plays, I have a lot of interest in Rose, who's going to see, usually sees a ton of usage, over 25% in this offense. You know he's the guy who has a ceiling in the 50s plus in terms of DraftKings points and also scoring. So if he's in, I like him a lot. If he's out, and this is one of the big news of the day, that's why it's highlighted, that I think to follow as of now, you're going to see Jared Bayless is going to get another start here. He's only $5,000. he's priced up. He's priced up from what he has been, but still not too expensive. Wiggins and Towns are going to see a big boost. In Towns, when Teague and Rose are off the floor, 2 high usage guys, and Towns also being a high usage guy. When those guys are off the floor, the offense just gets run through him, right? He has 60-point upside in DraftKings, basically any night really. But when those guys are out, it's just increased tremendously. Wiggins has been seeing a lot of usage since these guys have been out. He went for 50 plus in DraftKings the last game that he played 2 days ago. So definitely keep an eye on the guards. Here you have the Memphis small forward, power forwards. Caspi's still out. He's not too much. He's at 3,400. He's just a guy who's going to see maybe double-digit minutes. That would affect a guy like JaMychal Green. And if he's out, you could see Gasol getting a couple more minutes, which he usually already is a minutes monster in the 35-plus range. And you could see Jaren Jackson Jr. Definitely starting and getting more minutes, which is something to definitely keep an eye on. Jaren Jackson Jr., a guy, if you're going to be playing tournaments, is a smash play. Now, as we get more people in, and I'll stop quickly watching these videos, I'm getting a lot of feedback on you guys are winning in tournaments and things like that. I want to say, one, that's all you. Like, these videos are helping you guys, and that's great, but it's also you making your lineups at the end of the day. So that's all you. So don't be thanking me, because you're the one putting your money in, you're the one putting the work in. And number 2, some people are saying they're not winning and things like that, and it's the flip side. They're like, I've been watching your videos, what's up? I'm making these NBA videos for a week, so first off, a week's a small sample size of not winning. You can go, if you're playing just big tournaments, you can go a year without hitting anything significant, right? Or plus, especially if you're not playing it optimally. There's learning that has to be done. It's hard to win big tournaments, so make sure you check out my cash game versus tournament video, basically game selection, how you should go about picking your games on DraftKings. That video dropped, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago, and it's getting a lot of good feedback early. So make sure you watch that. That'll kind of help you figure out how I go about my games. I'm going to be making a bankroll one soon. So that's just to the people who have been asking. Like I said, Kyrie Irving's doubtful with the hip. It seems like he's going to be out. Obviously, it's going to help Terry Rozier, a guy who averages over 30 fantasy points a game, DraftKings points a game, when Kyrie Irving's out and he draws a start. It's also going to help the rest of that team. Just Kyrie Irving, the best player on that team, by a wide margin, tons of usage by a wide margin, tons of shots. It's going to help everybody else. It's going to help Horford, because the offense is probably going to primarily go through him. And then you're going to see guys like Tatum, Smart, even Brown getting a lot of usage. So I have all these impacted players, and we'll see my players of interest in a second. But these guys right here are the ones that are going to be significantly impacted based on the fact that they're either starters or they have a rotation in that guard spot, like a Smart, like a Rozier. Dwayne Wade, questionable, another thing to key watch. Now, Wade's not a starter, but Wade does get his minutes out there around the 20s, mid-20 range. So if he's out, it's going to help Magruder, who's definitely going to probably be starting regardless, I'd imagine. It could help Waiters, who with Wade off the floor this year in only 28 minutes, so it's nothing, right? Waiters hasn't been there long. He got injured. But in 28 minutes, which is about a game of play, he had a usage rate of 30.9. So super small sample, but I thought it was note at least putting in here. Winslow, if he starts at the point guard position, since we do have Tyler Johnson out, I do like Winslow today, and also with Wade out, would also potentially give Winslow another minute or two, especially with Wade off the floor, take some usage back. Jamal Murray out, this helps Monte Morris Harris, Jokic as well. Murray does take some usage away from Jokic when he's in there. Jokic gets a bump when he's out. Kent Bazemore, questionable. It's going to affect Prince the most. I'd watch out for that. That's definitely something with Prince and him being in the same price range. If you're planning on going there in cash or a tournament, keep an eye on. Julius Randle, probably, I'd say Rose is the most important news, just because there's a lot that I like to do with the Timberwolves based on that news. But I think that Julius Randle is the second most, or 1A, 1B with Derrick Rose in terms of news as of right now. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're good. So he's questionable with an ankle. He didn't play last night. They had the starters out. They were double-digit underdogs last night. Ended up winning because Okafor continues to go off. Drew Holiday, who I said on Twitter had to put the team on his back, he did. He was like the first guard ever to have whatever it was, 20 points, 6 assists, 8 rebounds, and he had like 6 or 7 blocks. He's just a nut. Drew Holiday's crazy. He said 90% of the reason he wanted to be in New Orleans was because of Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis leaves and goes to wherever, they're saying if he goes to the Lakers, you could watch out, because Drew Holiday might be following right behind him, and that'd be a nuts team. But it's going to affect Holiday, because he's just going to get a ton more usage. He's going to get a ton more scoring opportunities. Obviously, Okafor down low at the 5 with some rebound opportunities and just more small shots. Solomon Hill, it's going to affect. Solomon Hill's an absolute bum. I refuse to play him, even if he's going to be seeing 25-plus minutes. He just looks like an old man out there. Alfred Payton was ruled out. I have him as questionable right now. There's really no news yet on it, but him being ruled out, I'm just going to say questionable. It's going to help Tim Frazier, Frank Jackson, guys who both saw 20-plus points in DraftKings last night. It's also going to help Drew Holiday. Mirotic's out, and I just put uncertain because he's supposed to. The latest news as of last week was like a week or so, 4 games. It's been about that, so I'm just trying to wait to hear back on that, unless it's been longer and I'm just completely lost on this, which it might be. I was going off of the Draftkings news. Obviously going to help Miller, another guy who's a complete bum who sees 40 minutes and scores 0.7 points a minute. But if he's going to see 40 minutes, you'll take those 28 points, I guess. Moutier out. This is the Knicks guard show. What's it going to be? Trier, Burke, Hardaway's the most consistent, but at the point guard position, I like going back to Burke here, honestly, if it comes to it. Everybody got burnt by him a night ago when he only put up 18 points at like 60% ownership. So I don't mind going back to that. I usually like to jump on those guys because they're usually in a very similar position, maybe a different matchup based on defense, but usually in a very similar usage and minutes and role. It's just everybody now jumped off of him, so why not get on there if it's undervalued now? Then lastly, just to mention back-to-backs tonight, Chicago, we're going to have the Pelicans and the Wizards, so just things to watch out for. That's why it worries me a little bit when we talk about Drew Holiday, and I'll get to that because he did play 40-plus minutes last night, or 38 minutes last night, and now they're on a back-to-back. He's a young player, so it shouldn't affect him too much, but they've been resting guys like Moore last night. They've been cautious with guys like Payton and Randall and Davis, so you can see potentially Drew Holiday. He might not go tonight, so that's something to watch out for sure, or be limited. Quickly, we'll look at Vegas. So I have in green now, it's just coded basically anything over 220 I'm going to put in green, so it's easier for me to look at and you guys to look at. I like that 220 point range. Now obviously 218 points is pretty close to that, so I mean this is just for me to look at quickly. I like to target 220 and above. Higher total games, more points in the game means more fantasy points in terms of rebounds, assists, all of that stuff for those of you that are new. It says 0 right here. That's just because the over-under isn't out yet. I usually project these over-unders, but for the sake of time and the fact that this research in the morning has been taking me close to an hour and a half to 2 hours trying to cut that down somehow by coding my way to it. So for the sake of time, I didn't project it yet. I will be doing that. So keep an eye out on Twitter. I might be updating things like that there. So this is just the over-under. I mean, people, again, if you're new here, people get worried about the blowout potential here at a negative 5-point line that Miami's a 10.5-point favorite, and they might not play guys like Justice Winslow or things like that, or Laurie Marketing on the other side for Chicago. Like, don't take that into account because too many things have to happen. We've talked about this before, and I'll just mention it again, not to try and beat a dead horse. But if you're banking on a blowout, that's bad because, one, you're trying to predict the blowout, which predicting anything in sports is hard to do. Number two, you're trying to predict the players that it's going to impact, which that's hard to do. And also, if you can predict the blowout right, when is it going to happen? That's even harder. Will it happen with 3 minutes left in the game? Because then that's not affecting your players. Will it happen at like halftime? Okay, then that affects your players, but that's rarely does that ever happen in the NBA, that it happens at halftime. Usually the starters play all 3 quarters, if not 3.5, even in big blowouts. So that's another thing just to keep in mind. And also, if you're going to predict it, if you're predicting that the favorite's going to blow out the underdog, then chances are your guy that you want to play does well, right, in that spot. If you're worried about him being taken out, chances are he does well. And on the other side of the ball, if you're trying to put guys in there who might see blowout minutes, that's just even harder because what if the blowout happens with 4 minutes left? You're getting 4 more minutes out of a guy who scores maybe 0.5 points per minute, so you're getting 2 more points in your lineup, and the guy finishes with 9 points in your tournament, and you're just fishing at the bottom of it. Like, that's not going to work. So I don't take blowouts into account. That's just my opinion. That's not right or wrong. I just believe that is right. So this is Vegas. Again, these are just the totals and everything. Quick dashboard for you guys. So pace we've been talking about. I changed the code or the equation for it a couple days ago. Pace is just possessions per game per team. So you can see this is each team's possessions average on the year. This is as of like 3 or 4 days ago, so these ranks might have changed. Sacramento, I believe, is like 13. There's nothing showing up there because they're like tied with somebody else. So it kind of eliminates it for some reason. Got to figure that out as well. But you can see here the 2 highest paced teams on the slate, Sacramento and Atlanta, are actually playing each other. Sacramento was the highest paced team on the slate for the majority of the year. They kind of slowed it down, taking guys off the court, things like that. So you could see this is a pretty big and significant difference. So pace, how I project pace is basically I take each team's pace, I add it up in a formula, and I kind of factor out the league's pace, and then I add back in the league's pace just to see. Basically, you can't just, what I was doing early on was adding these 2 up and dividing it by 2 and getting the average pace for that game. That's good and all, but it doesn't take into effect the fact that these 2 teams are the 2 highest paced teams in the league. So there's a difference between these 2 teams playing and a difference between Atlanta and Memphis playing. It's going to be a slower game. This game is going to be a lot faster than it usually would because these teams are higher than that average team in the league. So what you get is, on average, 113 possessions per team. That's absolutely nuts, right? So if you see, that's almost 10 more possessions per team in this game. That might be a little bit high or sound a little bit high to have like 18 or 19 more possessions in this game. But I double checked the math. It's all right. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely just interesting to look into. If we just double check the math just to really make sure. Yeah, we're all good. So yeah, it's interesting because you're going to see maybe potentially 15 to 20 more possessions in this game, which is a complete edge in my opinion. And it's also one of the later games, which I love to play because you get to watch your lineups move up. You get to late swap, things like that. There are pieces in this game, but the thing that hurts about this game, we'll talk about it just quickly. Atlanta, it's hard to get right? I mean, you know, Trae Young might have a good game, but then you have all of their forwards. You have two centers in Dedmon and Len. You have literally all of their forwards, especially now if Bazemore comes back. You have Bazemore, you have Kevin Huerter, you have Bembry. There's just so many guys out there that it's hard to predict who's going to do anything either night. You have Prince. It's just absolutely insane how many guys you have out there. It's hard to predict that, and honestly, none of them really have super high ceilings outside of a guy like Trae Young and potentially Dwayne Dedmon on some nights. You look at the other side of the ball, and it's kind of a spitting image. A team that runs fast, that's kind of hard to predict. Buddy Hield's usually a safe bet. De'Aaron Fox can go for a triple-double potentially. He has that in him. But then Bogdanovich is hard to get right. You have guys like Willie Cauley-Stein who are hard to get right. Marvin Bagley's just hit or miss every single day. So it's definitely hard to predict these teams. I want to target it because there should be a lot of points. You can see 234 over-under. And if we go back to Vegas here, you can see it's 5.5, so it's going to be a decent game. You don't have to even worry about that blowout potential. So this is definitely a spot that is going to be what I'm working on throughout the day because it's just so interesting how many points are going to be in this game and how many possessions, but it's hard to get those players right, so keep that in mind. Quickly, we'll look at target offenses. Again, it's coded now, so the top 5 teams in target in defense against the position. So what you're looking at here is anything above 26 to 30 range means that they're the worst 5 teams in the league against that position. Anything 1 to 5 is they're the best 5, and this is over the last 30 days. I've been doing it on the other videos for the whole year, but I figured over the last 30 days might paint a truer picture based on injuries, based on guys who are like out for the year that haven't been playing for a while, and factors all that in. And it's based on DraftKings points. I get this at Fantasy Pros, all this information. So yeah, I mean, you guys can just look at this. We'll break down into the players of interest. I won't spend too much time on here because it's basically color-coded and there's a lot of good spots you can look at. But don't just go based off these colors. Obviously, there's like other teams that like 24th is pretty bad, 25th is pretty bad against that position over the last 30 days. Also, don't just go and plug in guys that are playing in these situations because there's more to it than that, right? Obviously, they might not be a good player for starters, salary implications, lineup construction. This isn't just the end of how you should be diving deep into defense against position or just your analysis at all. This is just, again, early look for the morning at how the slate's looking and who's in favorable spots. Early interest at the guard position. So we got a couple things going on here. So guard position, I didn't put all of them on here. There's a lot that I like. I mean, I don't have Marcus Smart on here. I do like him just off the top of my head. So these are just my early interests. These are not picks. I know the video says picks. If you're new here, I do not give out picks. I think I was saying this in the comments yesterday to a guy named Chris. Shout out Chris. I was saying this, and basically it's what's the value of me coming on here, screen sharing, and saying this is my top 5 picks for the week or whatever it might be. I don't see the value in that personally because, one, even if those picks are smashing every single time, all of your however many viewers are using them because they know they're smashing, and you're all holding hands to the finish line and splitting up your $100,000 between 100,000 of you, and you're each taking $1. Not that extreme, but where's the edge then, right? And if your picks are terrible, then you're just like a con artist, and people are going to still watch it because I know that people like to hear who other people think, right, are going to get picks, when really you should do the opposite, because if we think about ownership and we think about being contrarian, we know where everybody's going. If you look at ownership projections, if you follow any site who has good ownership projections, Osmo has incredible ownership projections. If you follow a site like that, then you know where the ownership's going to be already, so you should probably fade that. So if you're watching a guy in a video say where he's going, he's probably just as public as everybody else, and public just means betting with your emotions and following the media and things like that. You should be avoiding that. So I don't see the value in that. I'm trying to give you guys, like we said in the comments, teach you guys how to fish so you can do this on your own, but also make it easier for you research-wise and just provide it for free. I'll make money off YouTube ads. I'll make money off of sponsorships or affiliate marketing in my videos, and potentially further than that in the future as working for a company or something. So don't, like, that was just something that came to my mind. Don't I just don't see the value in that. Like, if you're asking, well, who's the pick tonight? Like, I'll give you who I would play or, like, who I like a little bit more in that situation if you give me, like, a 2v2. But I'm not going to say, these are my picks, go and use them. I'm using them. Like, what's the point? Nobody gets an edge there. It's pointless, and chances are those picks aren't always going to be right. So, back to the video. We're at the 20-minute mark. If you made it 20 minutes and you like that little spiel I just did, hop down in the comments below. Let me know you made it to the 20-minute mark. I appreciate you. I want to let you know that. So, Terry Rozier, 30 points a game with Kyrie out. I like him. Trey Burke, I said I like jumping on the dead horse once he's already dead. Everybody's hopping off Trey Burke. 60% ownership. He's still cheap, though, so he's going to garner ownership, but it might get cut in half. Probably more than cut in half since this is a way bigger slate at 8 games. Monte Morris is dangerous because he's going to play a good amount of minutes, but it's hard for him to get going. He needs to get in that assist category, 4,500 though. Same with Malik Beasley on the same team. They both need to be doing multiple things, and they usually don't, but they're seeing increased usage in minutes, so at a cheap price it works. Andrew Wiggins at 6,500. His price has come up. I think he was like 5,900 before dropping 50 in his last game. 6,500 is probably still too cheap if Derrick Rose is out. If Derrick Rose is in, I'm probably jumping off. Jared Bayless, obviously, if Derrick Rose is out at 5,000, his price comes up $600. Again, he continues to climb because he continues to go over 30 points. I think he's now appropriately priced, exactly where he should be. Derrick Rose interests me a ton if he plays. I like him more than Wiggins. I like him obviously more than Bayless. I probably like him the most on this team because Towns is a very tough matchup. Justice Winslow, if Wade's out, I like Winslow a little bit more, but I do like Winslow just because Tyler Johnson's out. If Winslow starts at the point, starting at the point guard position or the center is spots that I like to target. Point guard position, you're going to get more usage, more chances for a double-double with assists. Drew Holiday, 8,900. So it scares me. I got to watch this news. For some reason, I have a bad feeling. Maybe it's just because last night I got screwed over with the injury news. But Drew Holiday, 8,900, coming off a game where he had to do everything for the team, 38 minutes played. He's on a back-to-back. They've been resting their players, like more last night, being cautious, like we mentioned, with Peyton, with Randall. I could see this being you take the night off, Drew Holiday night, and that would be scary. That would also probably help guys like Tim Frazier. That would help guys like Frank Jackson. So keep an eye on that. Collison, I like. It helps a little bit that Evans is out. Collison has been pretty solid besides his last time out, which I hope that makes people jump off of him. 6,200, though, potentially a little bit too much. This is a guy who can easily go for over 30 points, but if I'm going to be paying 6,200, I want 40 points. And again, he could go for that as well. Maybe he's appropriately priced. I feel like 6,000 is a little better. Fox is in a really good position. We mentioned the run in this game, and I'll hit on him and Young at the same time. They're both in a good position because this is the highest paced game by a ton, and they're probably the two safest pieces in this game. I like both of them. It just scares me because they're both kind of hit or miss players, and they're both of their ceilings for 7,700 and 7,400. Yes, in this game their ceilings are going to elevate. They potentially both have these 50-point ceilings tonight, but if they only get you 40 points, are you really feeling good about your lineups? If your two guys who are 7,700 and 7,400 only get you 40 points. Now, one can go for 60 tonight in this matchup. Just not sure I see it. I probably like Fox a little bit more if I had to pick. Wesley Matthews at $4,200. He's a guy who's going to see a lot of minutes. He doesn't really produce on a point-per-minute basis, but he does see a lot of minutes, and he is cheap as a nice pivot spot with a great matchup, as you can see right here. So, that's the guards. We're going to move over into forwards. Again, early interest. These are not my finished products here. Forwards, as you can see, I didn't list a ton of them. I could definitely list some more forwards here, but we're going to get to where I'm really trying to target on this slate. Julius Randle, again, if he plays, I like him a lot at 7,800. If he plays, it probably means he's healthy and he's a little bit fresher since he sat out the past few games. Luka Doncic, maybe the best pay-up spot on the slate outside of center, so if we're talking forwards and guards positions. Just an incredible matchup, whether he starts at the shooting guard, the small forward position. Both of those are 30th, the Knicks defending against them. His usage rate's insane. Anytime you see a player approaching a 30% usage rate, that's elite. That's what Russell Westbrook's getting. That's what James Harden's getting, over 40. And he's only 8,800, so I think you're still getting Doncic at a price discount. I, for one, did not get on Doncic early when he was in the 6,000s, the 7,000s, and I regret that. But now he's 8,800, and I still think he's too cheap. I think he's going to be around 93 very soon. 7,200, Buddy Hield, a guy who can definitely drop 50 points. I like him here a lot. He still gets usage, he still gets minutes, and he still has a great matchup today. And that's one of those pace-up spots. So Buddy Hield's the second safest play. I'd say he's the safest play in terms of he can be consistent for you. But I think in terms of hitting their ceiling, it's going to be Fox in that big game. Will Barton at 6,800, really good matchup. Based on the last 30 days, fantasy points given up. And if we got Murray out, news, that's going to be a little bit more ball handling, potentially the ball in his hands for Barton. Maybe he can pile up more assists. Harrison Barnes at 5,200 might be a good pivot off of Doncic. Barnes, again, another guy that's not very good points per minute, but he does get a lot of minutes. All he has to do is really have one good shooting game, which any shooter can. He's a good shooter. Not very good analysis, hashtag analysis there, but he's just a guy who intrigues me early on. Terrence Prince intrigues me pretty much if Kent Bazemore's out. If not, then I don't like it. Marketing intrigues me a lot at 6,700. I think he's underpriced. This guy should be close to the 7K range pretty soon. Marcus Morris, 5,300, and Thad Young, 5,600. Morris I like a little bit. I liked him last time when Irving was out, and I ended up didn't playing him. He ends up being on the winning lineup. He did really well. 5,300, he's still cheap. So what you can see here right now, based on these first 2 pages, is I haven't really found much value, right? Wesley Matthews in there, but he's not solid value. We have Morris, who's decent, and Trey Burke, who's decent. They're both under 5K. But you can bet your bottom dollar that value is going to come out later in the day. I have a bad feeling it's going to be Drew Holiday. That could be just my thoughts. Like, I don't even know if that's going to be right. It's probably not. But we're not getting much value on this slate yet, so it might be hard. You might have to go more mid-range plays, which is fine because there's a lot of ways you can do that on this slate. Now, let's move over to center. And I like a lot more centers than this, but these are the guys who came to mind at first. So, Noah Vonleh I'll start with, and these are in no ranking order in these. Noah Vonleh, very tough matchup. I like him more if he goes to the power forward position. I personally love playing centers, and I like when my guys that I like to play are at the center position. Now, Noah Vonleh I put in here at center because he can go there, he can go at the power forward position. If he goes to power forward, he just has an insanely better matchup. He's going to have a really tough time at center, and I'm probably not going to play him, even at 5,900. Al Horford, I don't know how this guy was not more owned the other night when Kyrie was out. I thought he would be the highest owned guy in the slate. He wasn't. It just shows that a lot of the public's not as sharp as people think they are. And when I say sharp, that's with a P, like pretzel, not K. A lot of people think it's shark. It's sharp, like you're a sharp person. So, Al Horford at $7,000, too cheap if Irving is indeed out. Karl Anthony Towns, again, he's very expensive. But Karl Anthony Towns, if Rose is out, becomes a very, very good play. Going to have insane usage. Already gets 27% usage. It's going to bump up to around 35 with Rose out. But as you can see here, Memphis, very tough matchup. Against Gasol, I believe that's who they're playing. Jokic, 10-9, most expensive guy in the slate. Very hard to get up to him on this slate unless we get some value here. But he's a guy who can drop 70 on your head top, 80 on your head top like it's nothing. Just another guy who interests me. Paying up at center is where it seems to be right now, as of this slate is, but it's just tough to get there. Seems more of like a, for me at least, get your centers in there, but also mid-range guys for the most part. Find a value or two like a Trey Burke. Hassan Whiteside at 7,500 has a great matchup. If he can get the minutes, that's the thing with Hassan. Will you get the minutes out of him? 26 right now. Not bad. DeAndre Jordan, $7,000. Think he's a little underpriced for a good matchup here tonight. I like it. So there's a lot of centers that I do like. There's a lot of centers that I usually like every night. I like playing centers because of the double-double potential. That extra 2 points helps when you're trying to win a tournament. So this is it. This is the early look. There's a lot more that I already know that I'm interested in that I just didn't get on here for the sake of not writing every single player in the name of the world, and also for the sake of time. So this is what we're looking at right now. I'll drop it on this injuries. I appreciate you guys watching. If you watch all 28 minutes, you're a champ. Let me know down below once again that you made it through the entire video. I want to shout out to you. I appreciate that so much. Best of luck tonight. We're going to be doing an NFL video probably tomorrow. Not positive. Don't hold me to that. A lot of stuff going on this weekend. Super Bowl, obviously. 1 year anniversary with my girlfriend. So not going to be working this weekend. Going to be out back tomorrow. I'm tired. I got to get some sleep. Best of luck. Peace.